And that's to kind of help, you know, people that have the time. One of the guys in the office mentioned today said, are there any PDHs or any professional development hours? And I said, well, that's a good idea. I need to look into that and try to get some PDHs for this meeting. So I try to look into that in the future as well. It's a great networking. It's a great networking opportunity regardless. So if we can get some PDH hours out of some of these, that'd be great. Okay, let's see. Speakers, just let me know when you're done. If you'd like to entertain questions, and I'd be happy to help field them. Without further ado, I'm honored to be able to introduce our first speaker who's on vacation this morning, I think in Florida, he said. Mikhail Pelfrey, let me read your bio. I read it every time, but getting people familiar with you. Department of Rural Municipal Aid, nearly 5 years in consultant industry. Before that, in 2011, he joined Division of Planning, and he was doing what Steve DeWitt's doing for us now, Strategic Planning Corridor Team. And he was the lead in, I think probably 17 or 18. And he was the branch manager of motor programs in 19 and kind of worked his way on up. In 2020, he was named the director. So he graduated from UK, he's living in Lexington. So Mikhail, go ahead and say hi to the group. Say a few words if you want.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Like Jacob said, I'm actually down on vacation this week. I knew about this meeting, obviously with it being the third Wednesday of July, but some of y'all might wonder why I'm down here, but you know, my wife works for Toyota and they have an annual summer shutdown on tomorrow and Friday. So it kind of coincides nicely with her a couple of days off. So she makes all the plans and I just kind of drive down here. So that's why I'm actually on vacation this week. But of course I would not miss this meeting for anything. I know some of y'all, you know, all the husbands out there kind of shaking their heads and in agreement and know the position I'm in. And those of you that are not married yet, I'm looking right at you, Stephen DeWitt. Your time's coming. But I do want to welcome everybody today. There are a couple of things I wanted to at least start us off with, a couple of high notes. I see Patty here on my screen, and Patty and Jeff are gonna be talking a little about the long range state transportation plan. I do want to stress the importance of that. It's been 7 or 8 years since we last did this, and you know, we will be relying heavily on all the the highway district planners as well as the ads and the MPOs. So you know, while Patty and Jeff may mention that as well, I want to kind of hear that from me at the same tone, kind of stress the importance, because we'll be leaning heavily on you all as we look to complete this over the next 18 months. The other thing I wanted to mention was also done by Michael Baker here, and probably the last 18 months to 2 years is they were the consultant that was tasked with obtaining all the ADA information. So we have an ADA now of all the ADA state maintained, all the ADA facilities on state maintained routes. It's recently been completed. It was a monumental task, not only through the Division of Planning and Michael Baker, but we also had some outreach with Jeff Jasper of KTC, and OIT had a big lift for us and be able to interpret those schemas. But because of that work, we now have, as of a couple of weeks ago, we now have a fully approved FHWA ADA transition plan. So that's important. That is linked on the planning website. If you look along the right side there under ADA transition strategies, that document is now available for all of us to see. And we'll be looking here, modding this contract and trying to get some of those facilities constructed here in the next, we've got about a $4 million pot to be able to get some of those facilities constructed. So we'll be looking at hot spots for those. But those two items, I think, were the two biggies for us that I wanted to mention, at least highlight to in opening comments for this meeting. I look forward to a good meeting here this morning. And at this time, I guess I'll turn it back to Jacob and welcome my privileged assistant director. I think is going to be up next.
Yeah, thanks, Mikhail. Yeah, I saw our mile marker. They send out like a little team builder newsletter. it's probably just to the cabinet folks, but the mile marker had that ADA transition plan on there. So it's a cool accomplishment. And Patty might mention that, I guess, briefly. But the next speaker is Jason Blackburn. He's the assistant director. Jason's been working for the Department of Highways over 20 years, most of which were in D10. And in December 2020, he took on the assistant director role of planning. So, and he's overseeing the shift process. Jason is in the room today, so we'll swap out seats. Just holler at me when you're done.
iPad,
yeah,
the camera.
Whoa. And this is just my monitor screen. I'm logged into Zoom, but that's just the monitor on the laptop.
Okay, that's kind of
cool. It's
cool.
pretty much what everybody's seeing.
The camera is in the laptop.
A delayed reaction on the screen. That's pretty cool. Y'all should see this. Yeah.
What kind of medication are you on, Jason?
Okay, enough fun. We'll get to business. Unfortunately, I have to report that I have failed everyone. Yes, you will not hear this. You will not hear me say this very often at all. Eunice is shaking her head. She knows that I don't admit to defeat very much. But how have I failed, you might ask? Well, if you go to that handy dandy schedule thing that we sent out months ago, I'm supposed to be giving you all the regional scores, the statewide list and the regional scores. I think it's this Friday, the 23rd. Due to, well, me, I'm in charge, it's my fault, but you won't be getting it until probably Wednesday, which is the 28th. So technically I did not meet my deadline and I have failed as far as I'm concerned, but that's pretty much it. So just so everyone knows, that is what's going on. A couple of days of delay. We will send that list out. It should be by Wednesday is the intent. Though I'm late, so to say, I'm not letting you all be late. The schedule's still going to remain. You have until September 10th to return your stuff. We're not giving you 3 extra days. I guess it's kind of cool to be the assistant director at this point. And the rest of you just have to live with it. So the only other thing a lot of people have asked about, so to say, the boost. And I have that PDF ready to hit send on my computer. As soon as I get out of here, I will be sending it out. And bottom line is, after a lot of debating in our meetings with our committee and a lot of fighting and things of that nature, it's been determined that everybody's going to get the same number of boosts that you got last time. So whatever your number was, you know, it was based upon some crazy thing last time, but whatever that number was, if it was 10, that's what you're getting this time, regardless of what you sponsored or whatnot. So we're keeping that straight for right now. Everybody is aware that we did reduce the sponsorships this time, and I think for 2024 we might be looking at another small reduction and even possible reduction in boost. But for this time, we're, you know, baby steps, one reduction at a time. This is your first round with me, so that's how it's going to go. Other than that, that's about it. I would say I would entertain questions, but really and truly, no, it's not really. So I'll turn it back over to Jacob. Y'all can hit me up, email, phone call, Teams, any of that junk. If you do have any questions, and I look forward to our district office meeting. I'm seeing a lot of people accepting it as we're talking right now, so that's good. It's going to be a hoot. No question about it. I've got a few things in store for our district people. We'll see you in a few hours.
Thanks, Jason. See, everybody probably knows Jason Blackburn pretty well. He's got a good spark of life and good energy, I know, for the division. Let's see, the next up on the list, we're doing this long range plan update. So I wanted to bring in kind of some of the other, people, you know, just talk about some of the plans and things that we have. So one of the big ones is statewide corridor plan. So Steve DeWitt is the strategic plan corridor team lead right now. And he acts as the liaison for several districts. He's a 2013 graduate of Purdue University and initially worked in Kentucky as a consultant. And he's worked at the KYTC since 2018. So Steve, take it away. playing music chairs.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. Really quick update from me today. The statewide corridor plan is agonizingly close to being done and posted to the website. I have created a website on the off the KYTC site. You'll be able to navigate to it from the cabinet's statewide initiatives page. It's going to be transportation.kentucky.gov/Lincoln Kentucky. Will be where you can find the statewide corridor plan and link to the GIS online tool that's been developed and see all the information from it. Like I said, really, really close to being done. And I think it's going to be a really, really good tool to use. And I think we've already seen some possible uses for it in this shift cycle and future shift cycles. As we pivot toward the statewide interstate and parkways plan, I sent out to a whole bunch of people asking for any lessons learned or anything that they'd like to improve about the corridor plan process. So if you've not responded back to me, which no one has, and I know that we didn't do this perfect. So if you could dig that email up, or if you have an opportunity, and just shoot me an email to say anything that we could have done better, or that you just liked how the process went. And maybe you won't do that until you see what the actual final product is. Like I said, we're going to do a statewide interstate and parkway plan. Hopefully going to kick that off next month if we can get all the contracting stuff taken care of. And similarly to the corridor plan, it's going to be a two-step process, looking at the interstate and parkway network as a whole, and then kind of zeroing in on some really important segments that have the most opportunity to improve safety, connectivity, economic development, and all of that, all those data elements. And I think that's about all I have to talk about. So yeah, back to you, Jacob. 120 seconds, maybe.
Yeah, sweet. I told Steve we got somebody who's kind of like rapid fire speaker here at the beginning. So, if we have any extra time, there's a gentleman named Lewis Grimm from Eastern Federal Land. So any extra time we have, we'll give to him. It's kind of a last minute addition, but he was interested in networking, kind of coming to some of these meetings. So we squeezed him in here. The next speaker on the list, that statewide corridor plan. I'm kind of thinking long range plan. Obviously, we're going to be updating that 18-month deal. And that statewide corridor plan was a smart strategy, I think, for the division to kind of get that thing going. And it'll be a great resource whenever that info is available. So the next speaker, Scott Thompson. He's our KYTC Modal Branch Manager. And Scott is a licensed professional engineer since 1988. He's worked in state government for 20 years, nearly 17 with KYTC. He was promoted to branch manager in 2020. And in his spare time, he grows bananas on clear moonless nights. You can find him with one of his 4 telescopes taking pictures of the night sky. And Scott, I'll let you kind of talk about the division, personnel updates or anything you want to share about the plans and things you're working on. So welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, I just was asking Steve, when am I supposed to talk here? And the next thing I hear is my name mentioned. Yeah, I'm the freshly minted branch manager for Modal Programs Branch. I follow the footsteps of Mikhail and appreciate his support with the new adventure that I have, and that's been filling vacancies. As of January 1, I'm looking at myself, who's messing with me here, folks. The Modal Programs Branch had 3 people under me. And Jeremy Edgeworth, Jay Balaji, and Jacob Rice. That was it. Since then, we've brought on Connor Sherman. You may know Scott Sherman. There is a blood connection there. And he comes with wonderful experiences and is working under Jay Balaji under our forecast and modeling team. Some of you all also, prior to COVID, recall David Soularet. He came in as an intern, worked as a temporary, and as of May the 1st, David Soularet became one of our permanent team members as well. on the forecast and modeling team. He came with Transcad modeling experience, which is a rarity to find these days. Most recently, we are happy to announce that we have now a bike ped coordinator. Keith Lovin had a full career working for the Lexington Fayette Urban County government. And as of June 18th, I think it was a little bit after the beginning of the last pay period of June, became our new bike ped coordinator. So in the last 6 months, we've gone from 3 permanent to 6. We have more to come. If everything happens in the course of a year, we will have gone from 3 to 9 individuals in the branch, going from being the smallest branch in division planning to the biggest branch. So there's a lot of growing going on. We've been able to keep up with the new things, and we've got a lot of neat projects going on in the modal branch. We'll be presenting at the partnering conference our micro simulation standards, which have been pulled together by HDR. They've done a wonderful job. And it got started under Lindsay Walker when she worked for Kimley Horn. So this has been a long time in coming. We're excited to present that. We've got 2 people, or we've got 1 person we've recommended for the vacancy of air quality. It's been a long time since we've had an actual air quality coordinator. And yesterday we entertained interviews for the 8th position within the mobile branch. So lots changing here, a lot of new faces. We have here today also an intern who was hired during COVID. So most of you have never met Noah McCauley. Noah, you want to come over here and show your face? Sure. Yeah, he's here today. And Noah is there you go. Noah is a senior with the University of Kentucky. He's got a mechanical engineering discipline, but he has been working for us now for just a little over a year, and has really picked up the forecast and modeling tasks. And we're glad to have him on board. He will be graduated in December, and wish him the best of luck with wherever his career takes him. If it happens to be mechanical, or maybe he sticks around. It's his choice. Anything else?
Any studies like truck parking or freight studies, stuff like that? Under Jeremy Edgeworth's tutelage, he's been orchestrating a Riverport study that's being done by Metro. Metro has been providing conference.
I'm listening to the statewide meeting. What? I'm listening to the statewide meeting, and I'm just going to go walk for an hour while I do that.
Good. Let me mute.
You're allowed to take that walk. But Jeremy's been overseeing a Riverport's marketing study. With that, we're also leveraging the freight study that they're doing for that to improve our statewide models of freight distribution. We also are just poised to begin a truck parking study. That will be done by HDR. Jake Rice will be the co-lead on that project. It's going to be looking for low-hanging fruit as far as where truck parking potentially can be easily facilitated. There's a lot of places you've seen them, trucks parked on ramps. You've seen them parked in all kinds of places. It's because they don't have any place to park. And so that study is just getting kicked off. Sorry?
That's all I can think of too.
Okay, well, I think
October we might have like a freight focus, so we're
okay.
giving some more updates in October.
If y'all didn't hear Jacob in the background, a little preview. The October statewide planners meeting will have a segment to details a lot of what Jeremy has been working on over the last year. So thanks for the time. I'm excited to be the branch manager. Been in the branch for 17 years, so it's been my home for my whole transportation career. So thanks for y'all's attention, and I'll hand it back off to Jacob.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that, Scott. Let's see, Patty, we're eating into our time a little bit, aren't we? It's okay. Let's see. I'll read Patty's bio here, and she'll talk a little bit about the LRSTP.
Abbreviate it, please. Don't read that whole thing.
Yeah, okay. Patty's, a lot of you guys probably know Patty from her stint at KYTC. She was, chief district engineer for a while, and she worked up to the state highway engineer. Her bio is, she's currently office executive at Michael Baker International, which is the consultant we picked to do this LRSTP. And she's responsible for all operations engineering work performed out of that office. She began her career as a scholarship student in 1990, and she's kind of worked herself up KYTC. She oversaw 4,000 employees, nearly $1 billion of maintenance and construction work a year, which is pretty amazing. And she was responsible for delivering the projects included in the Kentucky Highway Plan. In 2011, she was named UK's Young Engineer of the Year, and she holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. She lives in Litchfield with her husband, Jerry, and two married daughters, Dawn and Tara, and one amazing grandson, Keller. And she said he just turned 1 this past week. So I think I heard him in the background in one of our test meetings.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. So,
yeah, take it away, Patty.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Yeah, so that's the biggest news. If those of you all that I know well, having a grandson change your life. But thank you, Jacob, and really appreciate the opportunity to speak to this group. And Mikkel, I appreciate you teeing it up for me and talking about the ADA implementation just really quick. Michael Baker is excited to continue the work there that we did with the mobile LiDAR data collection. And we'll be looking at those high density areas that have the highest pedestrian traffic and kind of in those areas that connect to educational facilities, stadiums, different things like that. So we'll be getting that underway soon. Then again, on the long range statewide transportation plan, like I said, our Michael Baker team is excited to work with all of you all that's on this call, because you all are going to be an important part of it. Just like Mikkel said, we need your assistance in helping to reach all points across Kentucky and getting input. So, a lot of us on this call participated in the last plan, that 2014 to 2035 update that was done. And that group, Tanya Higdon and Jeff Moore were kind of leading it for the cabinet then. And they were able to get input and responses from over 16,000 people. So we've really got a challenge for us this time, but we think with your all's help that we can do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to expand upon the success of that previous plan. It's going to be an extended policy-based plan that's going to have some innovative scenario planning and risk assessments. We've got specialty people on our team. And then we've also got people within Michael Baker that have done that work for other DOTs across the country. So we're excited to bring that to Kentucky and implement that scenario planning as we're going to be looking at some funding sources and how we can project that into the future. Jacob, if you don't mind, either I can share, or if you want to share that schedule, then I'll kind of talk through that.
Yeah, go ahead and see if you can share it. If you can't, run into technical difficulty or something, I'll try to open it.
All right, let me see if I can't find it here. Looks like I have a ton of windows open, if you can imagine.
I've got it here too. Let me see if I can share quick.
Okay. Yeah, I was having trouble getting it to come up.
Share my screen. Let's see.
Here we go. Yeah.
You guys see that? You zoom in a little bit.
That's great. So like I said, I don't want to take too much time today from your all's important meeting, but this is just a draft of the schedule that we're putting together to help keep the whole team in line. As you can see, there are so many different components that are going to go into this, and they're going to be kicking off just as soon as we get notice to proceed. We've got several things that kick off at the same time. The first and one of the most important is that communications plan, which the statewide transportation group, you all are a big part of that. And we're going to be kind of setting the plan of how we are going to get information out through you all to all your various committees, asking if you can go into the communities, the other functions that you all have within the ads and the MPOs, the other projects that you have going on within the districts, and putting out postcards, bookmarks, that kind of type of thing that will lead the public to the Story Map website that we're going to be keeping up for the long range plan update. We also are going to have a virtual town hall. We were successful in doing that for another project that we did with Steve DeWitt on I-65 new interchange feasibility study. That virtual town hall allows 24/7 access for people to go in to learn about the plan, what we're trying to do, and how we're going to bring all modes of transportation into it. So like I said, you all are a very important part of that. As you go on down the list there, you can see that data collection of the multimodal transportation system. So the things that Scott Thompson just mentioned, and all those other plans that Steve DeWitt talked about, the corridor plan, Scott talked about the Riverport study, the freight study, truck parking. We're going to be collecting all of that data that will be going into the long range plan update. So we make sure that we're melding all of that together. And then the requirements for the plan include the survey, number one, where we get that public information. So that's, like I said, we're going to be meeting with you all 3 times, and thank Mikkel and the group for allowing us to be a part of these meetings as we, kind of challenge you all to help us, give you all updates on where we are in the plan, kind of give you the information that you can share with your committees and with your groups, and as you all go out into your communities. And then going on down through the list here, as I mentioned, that scenario planning, that tool is amazing. Like I said, I've been able to participate, and Jeff too, and as we've worked through some of the other states. So we're excited to bring that into Kentucky as we look at different scenarios and look at the trends as we review the trends that are going on in Kentucky. And we kind of put them together, and we will have a workshop that we will do as we work with the different representatives from different modes. Some of you on this call are going to be a part of that workshop, and we will develop a plan of action. Some of the things that we'll kind of be doing, we'll be updating or coming up with a newer version of that Kentucky Transportation at a Glance that I know a lot of you all, like me, while I was at KYTC, I used that flyer a lot for meetings and things like that. So we're going to be updating that. And like I said, we're going to be setting kind of the vision, goals, and objectives and performance measures that are required by federal highways. So we're going to make sure that we meet all of those requirements as we go through and develop the draft of that long range plan. And then again, that'll be sent out to you all. You all will have copies of that so that you have them available, helping us to have that 30-day public review. And then some of the final components there that you can see is assembling a public information or involvement notebook where we compile everything that we've done through our communications plan. And one thing that's a little bit different is we're going to be doing an implementation plan that'll go along with the final plan update that is presented. This implementation plan is going to provide some short-term things that the cabinet can work with federal highways, can work with the legislature to make some changes so that we can continue to work towards the future and implementing these things that have been identified and how we can help to move, you know, KYTC and all of Kentucky forward, all modes of transportation forward as we continue to grow together. So like I said, we're just super excited about this update, and you know, we're going to be reaching out to you all, giving you all information through Jacob as the project manager for KYTC, and Sadie as the assistant project manager, Mikkel and the others. So I thank you in advance, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. And we'll, you guys will probably hear more about that over the next 18 months. You know, we'll probably have some data outreach, you know, requests and that kind of thing. And Sadie Middleton is right there. She's the deputy project manager on it, and I'll be kind of help managing it for KYTC, but it's definitely a team effort. So any help we can get statewide on that one will be definitely appreciated. Yeah. Let's see, we're running a little bit behind schedule, but we've got a couple of federal guys that would like to talk a little bit about. One of them's from Eastern Federal Lands, and the other one is from our Kentucky division. The first one is Mr. Lewis Grimm, so I'll read his bio quick. Lewis joined FHWA's Eastern Federal Lands Division in May of 2010 as the planning team leader. He's been an engineer over 40 years experience, and he's done a lot of multi-state, statewide kind of transportation plans, multi-state plans. And then he's got a bachelor's and a master's in civil engineering from West Virginia University, and he's registered in Delaware and Virginia. Some cool projects he's worked on: 18 power projection platform route studies on behalf of the Department of Defense's Surface Deployment Distribution Command. And one of them connects Fort Campbell, Kentucky to a seaport in Jacksonville, Florida. So I thought that was kind of neat. And he works with U.S. Fish Wildlife, National Park Service. He had an assignment for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to examine opportunities for improving access from neighborhood communities to any of 101 urban national wildlife refuges around the country. The focus of his presentation today will be on expanding efforts to better coordinate planning efforts of federal land management agencies with those of state DOTs, NPOs, and other local government agencies. So with that being said, Lewis, are you on here?
I am on. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah, and I can see you.
Good. Do you want to go ahead and load up the short presentation, or do you want me to do the share screen?
Go ahead and share it. If you run problems, I'll share it.
Okay. All right, let me do that here. Share and find it.
There you go. I can see it.
All right, that pop up. Good. Well, thank you.
It's in presenter mode, so if you want it full screen, just do the slideshow.
Okay. Let me do that. Come on. Slideshow. And from beginning. And there we go. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, I'm Lewis Grimm. I'm the planning team leader with the FHWA's Eastern Federal Lands Highway Division over in Ashburn, Virginia. And this is part of a continuing series of outreach activities we're doing, interacting with our counterparts in the various state FHWA division offices on how we can better coordinate and integrate the planning activities from the federal land management agencies with those of the state and local governments. Let me give you a little bit more background about this. You may never have heard of the Federal Lands Highway Office. There are only 3 of our divisions across the country. Each of us cover multiple states, all about the same number of square miles to deal with. We cover everything east of the Mississippi River, plus the states on the west side of the river. It's a total of 31 states, plus the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And we basically function as a technical support group, call us a small state DOT, for the federal land management agencies, provide them with the full range of technical administrative support services for any of the transportation related facilities that they own, operate, manage across that region. It's a fairly complex activity. I will be sending out a quiz later on to see how closely you followed the presentation. Rather than going through this list of definitions, just kind of, you can see here, it's a very complex structure we deal with, a variety of different agencies, all the Native American tribes, the state DOTs and others, wide range of programs. And we're also looking to do things both for locally identified projects, longer range, short-term, long-term. One of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention here is just how many of those Federal Land Management Agency units exist in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. This graphic kind of illustrates where those major units are. If you look at it, probably all of the major Federal Land Management Agency units like Forest Service, Park Service and such have facilities somewhere in the state. Collectively, there's about 90 of those federal recreation areas within Kentucky. Give you a few examples. The National Park Service, just by itself, manages 7 national parks, 2 national trails, 32 national historic landmarks, 7 natural landmarks, 1 World Heritage Site at Mammoth Cave National Park. And in fiscal year 2020, with all the COVID activities and such going on, they still had an estimated 1.5 million visitors to those sites. And if you look at the total economic benefit to Kentucky from all those people there and locals spending money and everything, it's about $1.2 billion. So it's a not insequential sum. Beyond that, there are 4 Fish and Wildlife Service National Wildlife Refuges, 3 national forest areas administered by U.S. Forest Service, particularly including the Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area, was formerly managed by Tennessee Valley Authority, and 24 recreation areas owned, operated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So all those agencies report up to their regional management group based in Atlanta, Georgia. So they're just down the road from you a little bit. And I think if you look at the number of sites, the way they're distributed around the state, probably a good estimate, you could say that almost every metropolitan planning organization in Kentucky has at least 1 Federal Land Management Agency within their defined boundaries. So they say, okay, that's an interesting point. What are we supposed to do with this? Well, I think this graphic kind of illustrates that. You see on the right side, kind of the traditional, here's all the federal aid money and all the people that are the actors on that. State Departments of Transportation, metropolitan planning organizations, councils of government, rural planning organizations. So that's that part of it. The other half are all the people that feed into the federal lands side. All those different agencies, and those are the people that we support and serve. So what we're really looking at is kind of that interface, as it were, where you get the overlap between federal lands and federal aid. And we're looking there to say, well, there are a lot of shared needs and priorities. How do we better balance and understand those? We also want to say we want to be consistent with the planning regulations, and the section 134, 135 regs do indicate that whether you're doing a statewide long-range plan or an MPO plan, not just your plan, but your programming processes, you need to take into consideration, as appropriate, any federal lands within your respective jurisdictions. Sometimes that might be a very small unit. Sometimes it might be a very large activity, such as Land Between the Lakes. What we're looking to do is to encourage how to kind of leverage some of those partnerships and collaborations, make sure we can have a better coverage of needs. If everybody's contributing a little bit of money, it gets some of those problems solved a lot quicker. The how is kind of through the traditional long-range transportation planning process at all levels, but also then looking at the more localized levels, either the Federal Lands Transportation Program or the Federal Lands Access Program policies, how to integrate those better into the state and local plans. So going to that, we'd say that what we're kind of engaged in right now, working with our Federal Aid Division partners from FHWA, is kind of, well, how do we bring all these pieces together? We know that we have the state DOT long-range plan we just heard a discussion of at the statewide level. We have the MPOs and the Council of Governments and the rural plans at the other Those two are by definition linked together through the planning regulations and such. Where we kind of come in are on the sides here for the Federal Land Management Agency planning activities, either at the national level or the regional multi-state levels, also at the unit levels in some instances. And then the tribal transportation plans. A lot of states do have, one or more Native American communities of sufficient size that they have their own transportation plans. Think of it as you would say a plan for a smaller county in Kentucky. Well, that has to fit into that statewide process. That's an activity going on. So we're the people that kind of bring everything together through the middle. How do we look at the consistency, the consultation, the coordination that goes along there? So it's a very large, complex process. It's something that has variations on a state-by-state basis. And with that, I will just cease my presentation and open the floor to any questions or comments that you have. I would also note that Jacob will be distributing out a copy of this presentation slide deck to you, actually an expanded version of it, and would encourage any of you to reach out to me as you think appropriate. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Grimm. I guess anybody have any questions right off for him? Like I said, we'll try to post this on our website with the other presentations. If you guys think of something, his contact information is right there. Moving right along, get to our next speaker. Thanks for your patience, David. David Whitworth, FHWA. Let's see, Lewis, stop sharing your screen there. Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
David Whitworth is the FHWA Kentucky Division Engineering Operations Team Leader. And he's currently working in the Kentucky Division office in Frankfort. He's in his 33rd year, started in '88 in the training program. And he's had assignments in Missouri, Tennessee, Georgia, Washington, D.C., Mississippi, and Kentucky. He's done a variety of jobs, including area engineer, safety engineer, planner, environmental specialist, and realty officer. He's got his bachelor's in civil engineering from Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville and a master's of public administration from UK. So, David, are you on here?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can see a vacation shot.
Well, I wish I could go on vacation. Here I am. I'm going to share my screen. I've got quite a bit of stuff. I want to thank you for inviting me to present today. I hope it's of interest for everybody. I did spend some time as a planner, and I got to work with Bernadette and DuPont. Many of you all may know, she taught me a lot. And with those in the cabinet, like Barry House, and with the locals like Keith Lovin, who's on here also. So everybody's teaching me stuff despite my learning. I wanted to.
Yeah, sounds good. I can see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it, and I can hear you good.
Okay. I wanted to say, I know there's some other UK Wildcats here, but there's also one other Golden Eagle from Tennessee Tech, a longtime friend, Jim Lefevre. I see him on here. So I want to cover that. I was asked to talk about the discretionary grant projects in Kentucky, known as Tiger, Build, Infra, and now we'll have RAISE because they've changed the name from Tiger and Build to RAISE now. So I wanted to give you a little information on each of these and talk about where they are in the construction or planning or anything like that, or development. These grants every year, we've been lucky enough in Kentucky to get quite a few, and they bring millions and millions of extra dollars to the state for these projects that might have to wait a little while. So I think they're very important, and I hope everybody finds this interesting. I know there'll be more in the future. We're talking about more funding, and always talking about more funding for infrastructure. So that's great to know that there will be more benefits for everyone. I do have to say that, let me see here. This is, okay, I'm new to Zoom, so I'm trying to advance my slides. Give me just one second. I do. Okay, my presentation is all words. In developing this presentation, I found out that we do have to get these approved through our headquarters, and it does take a little while now. So as I sent it up, I found out that pictures and other exhibits have to be given. You have to give credit, appropriate credit for media, and then you have to get permission to use them. So in the instance of getting these approved in time, I had to remove the pictures. So I apologize, it's all words, but hopefully you'll find this useful. We started out in 2009 with the cabinet getting an award, or I mean, not the cabinet, but the state getting an award of the Appalachian Regional Short Line Railroad Project, applied for by the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And this is complete, but it went to RJ Corm basically for work on for maintenance work on their existing lines and leased lines of rail transport to help improve the efficiency of the lines, the speed, and improve the air quality. Mr. Jeremy Edgeworth, who's on here, was tasked as a program manager, I think, for the cabinet, and it was a great learning curve being the first Tiger for him, the cabinet, and for us. And it was, he had to learn a lot about railroads, I'll tell you. We got about $13 million for a $16 million project. The next one that came about was, get my notes in order here, Milton Madison Bridge replacement, and also the same year. The Transportation Cabinet worked alongside with Indiana and Federal Highway, and Indiana oversaw it for the replacement of that bridge between the Milton, Kentucky, and Madison, Indiana. Try and move my screen here. They shared $20 million. The project was about $130 million, if I remember correctly. That one has been constructed. The next 2011 saw a Muldraw Bridge replacement be awarded, and that's a bridge on the Fort Knox military post. And I think we didn't know, this says we oversaw it, but we had nothing to do with it. I'm trying to remember if the cabinet had anything to do with it or not, but it's about $12 million to replace about a 150-year-old timber bridge, I believe it was, out in the middle of Fort Knox. Then we moved on to the 2014. We had the Mountain Parkway extension, which is just finishing up now. Transportation Cabinet had that project to widen a bunch of widen the 4 lanes there, and about 2 miles of Mountain Parkway through Salyersville, the highly commercial area. Very congested area, and if you travel that route very much, you know that it took a little while longer to get through there than you probably wanted, to just about 2 miles. And so we completed that widening. It was originally funded at $24 million for the Tiger project, for the Tiger grant, but ended up being, the overall cost was about to be $39 or $40 million. And I think they ended cost at $73 million. So it almost doubled due to some issues with the right of way, I think, and the high costs of some right of way. We went into the next year with the Transforming Dixie Highway project awarded to the Louisville Metro government, and that's just ending as well. And I know this is of probably interest to the planning side, in that there was $16 million of about a $35 million project, which implemented bus rapid transit along the Dixie Highway corridor, the whole corridor there, and intelligent transportation system was set up, and there was upgrades to a lot of things, including signal priority for the bus rapid transit, giving the buses the ability to depart from a traffic signal before the other traffic, and a lot of complete street improvements and bus stops and extra bus stops and things to give more people access to the bus and transit side of things. We also ended up working with FRA on this to buy 8 special buses that have this capability for communication and for the higher efficiency. And so that was a great partnering session with FTA. Also, I didn't put it on here, but I noticed that someone this morning mentioned the truck parking, and there was in 2015 there was a Tiger grant of $25 million that was awarded to Kansas to work with 8 states on the truck parking information management system. I didn't include that in here because I don't know that it's finished, but it seems I seem to be working on that still a little bit. But it's a great effort because, as it's stated, there is a huge problem for that, and I think that we, if you see some of the signs where it says spaces available out there for truck parking, I think those were a result of that, remembering correctly. So there were other modes involved as well, and these included the projects we didn't really have oversight of, so I don't have a lot of information on them. Kentucky 331 Industrial Road and Industrial Drive and Ronaldo Road widening and reconstruction in Build 18, which is considered 2019 award. Owensboro River Port Authority, oversight by MARAD, which is a sister agency of the Maritime Administration. And they received $11.5 million for about a $14.4 million overall project. And then the Paducah Riverfront Infrastructure Improvement Project was in Build 19. So City of Paducah was awarded this out in Western Kentucky with MARAD oversight and Maritime Administration, $10 million of $11.5 million. And I think if you look on these first sheets and not counting Transforming Dixie Highway and the Mountain Parkway extension, you'll see that there's about $56 million in funds that came to Kentucky for these projects from that. I'm going to advance this slide a little bit. I'm going to step through the rest of the projects that we have ongoing or in development at this time, just to give you a little information. More information on these projects. So in 2016, there was a bike ped project applied for by the City of Lexington, Fayette Urban County Government, excuse me, and to construct a multimodal greenway through 6 to 7 sections in downtown Lexington. And I think there's also some others, I think CMAQ money in there for a few sections. Our funding of Tiger was only for zones 3, 4, and 6 of the plan. It's a great project to connect several trails, Town Branch Trail and Legacy Trail, I believe, kind of providing a missing section, enhanced streetscaping, ADA enhancements to sidewalks and intersections, and upgrading pedestrian signals and access control and mid-block crossing improvements. As it said, it's currently under construction. If you get a chance to go through Lexington, you'll probably run into it downtown. It's right in front of the bus station there, and along I think it goes out Manchester Street, which is very popular to the Distillery District, and it's a great addition for Lexington for the bicycle and pedestrian for sure. Move into the next one. Next, I have in 2017, there was an $8 million grant that was awarded to the City of Frankfort for their $12.5 million project to reconstruct the 2nd Street corridor. If you've been to Frankfort or you work in Frankfort, you know that the 2nd Street School has a lot of students walking and from downtown, and there's cars trying to drop off kids and everything. And this is can be congested during the school year for sure. So it includes 2nd Street and East Main Street, and they're converting it into a complete street with wider sidewalks, improving intersection signaling, ADA accessibility, adding some streetscape enhancements, bike lanes, and green infrastructure movement improvements. It's another great project for the bicycle pedestrian features, and it's currently, like I said, currently under construction in Frankfort. Again, you go downtown, you're probably going to run into it. moving into 2018, the cabinet, well, there was quite a few applicants. The Callaway County Fiscal Court out towards Western Kentucky was successful in getting a $23 million grant to pay for a $56 million project to widen 5.7 mile section of US 641 south from 2 lanes to a 4-lane divided highway because of congestion and truck traffic that was coming through the town from the state line at Hazel north in the Middle Fork of the Clarks River. Now, another note is that Tennessee also has agreed tentatively to widen and develop the road from the Tennessee state line south into Tennessee. So that's a big benefit for this area to provide a better traffic efficiency and transportation access to the region. It's currently under construction down in that area. So if you're from there or get down in there, you know, you may want to take a look at that one. Moving to back over towards the east side of the state, 2018, there was $25 million awarded a $56 million project to the Pulaski County Fiscal Court to replace the Kentucky 80 461 intersection with the grade separated half cloverleaf interchange, and then the intersection of Valley Oak Drive and Coin Road with the 461 would get a grade separated tight diamond interchange, and also widening some of Kentucky 461 from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. It's currently under construction, and another great project to help the area and the region down there to improve the transportation efficiency. The cabinet is administering most all of these projects, and that is a great benefit to everyone because they have the resources and the ability and are used to these types of grants, which are reimbursement grants. So it does help speed up some of the paperwork, a lot of the paperwork and a lot of the payments and a lot of the work. The next project, which is moving into 2019, was for a Build US 460 in Bourbon County, awarded to the fiscal court there, about $10 million of a $17 million project to reconstruct 6.3 miles of US 460 from Russell Cave Road to the US 27 bypass. And these improvements are basically, I wish I could have shown the exhibit here because there's a lot of crashes and a lot of incidents in that area, apparently due to the narrow driving lanes and the shoulders and some obstructions and some sight distance issues. This is a tremendous safety project that I think will be help save some lives out there. And it's the grant agreement on it is currently being developed, I believe. And we should hopefully have approval soon and get ready to start this project to help everyone in this area, just north of Lexington, I guess. Here, the next is I have Heartland Parkway project in Taylor County was awarded in 2019 for about $10 million, about half the cost of the total overall project cost, to make improvements to the corridor, and that's Kentucky 55, 68, and 655, or 555, excuse me, and create passing lanes in that about 13 mile section there between Taylor and Marion counties in central Kentucky, kind of a county over from where I am in Anderson. So to help serve as a gateway to tourism destinations and to help economic development and improve the economy there. It's also under construction right now. And so if you're traveling that way, you may go down through that route and see a bunch of their work. Next, quickly, about $10 million awarded last year to the Kenton County Fiscal Court for a $12 million project. And this project is adjacent to the current infra grant, which I'll talk about a little later, which is on I-71/75 up in northern Kentucky. This project helps about a mile and a half of Kentucky 36 adjacent to that section, and putting in some raised median, curb and gutter, shared use paths in both directions, and a bunch of intersection improvements and a roundabout. We're currently developing the grant on that. Hopefully have it fairly soon. Excuse me, I think I went backwards one. Okay, next, quickly, we have covered this. This is great, another great project that's well needed, I believe. $15 million in 2020 awarded to the city of Corbin. Cover over the half the cost there to reconstruct US 25W. Basically at the intersection with 75, it goes from one side to the other and converts all that to 4 lanes, controlled turning lanes, medians. And if you've been in that area very much, you know that it can be really congested. Any intersection in off the interchange off the interstate almost anymore is really congested. So they needed this to widen that 4 lanes to improve the travel and access to the area. The grant agreement is under review and headquarters, I believe, to be approved, and hopefully that will be soon. These grant agreements, they take quite a bit of time to become developed and to get approved, and they're not real quick. So I like to say about 6 months is about as quick as you can get them. The next project, moving back over towards western side of the state, is US in 2020 was this project on US 79 to replace 4 bridges between Guthrie and Russellville, 2 of them in Todd County, 2 of them in Logan County, one over a railroad and one over a creek in Todd County, and then 2 over creeks in Logan County. These are bridges which are really needing to be replaced for deficient or just basically they're outused their life, I guess. So the agreement there is also being developed in waiting for approval in headquarters for us. Moving into the infra grants, one that is underway was awarded in 2018 and under construction right now as a design build project is the one in Northern Kentucky for about $68 million of a $151 million project. It's a big infra grants. The difference in infra and Tiger Build Raise grants or infra grants are traditionally bigger and serve a wider need. So as you can see, this is the last few grants I've talked about have been 10 to 25 million most times or less. And this is 67 million, but the project cost is 151 million. And basically we'll redo the Mount Zion Road and Richwood Road interchanges and to add auxiliary lanes on I-71 and 75. And anytime you deal with the interstate, of course, it costs a lot more money because a lot more traffic and a lot more congestion and headaches in there. Like I said, this is one we're working on and it's going well. And it actually connects to the former built project I talked about at 536. And final one we have is a new infra awarded to the state into last year. It's $55 million of $110 million to widen the Mountain Parkway section there is shown. The best way I can say it is it connects 2 other sections that are either finished or under construction right now of 4 lanes. So it's kind of I kind of call it a missing section or one that completes the continuity. And mile point 45.8 to 56.8, if you've traveled that way, which I have many times with in-laws that live in Eastern Kentucky, this is it's very difficult to get through that 2-lane sections there, just depending on traffic and everything. So it's right now it's under design development, and we hope it'll be approved soon for construction so we can get this going. I don't have much else here. Here's my contact information. If anybody wants to have any further information or wants to talk about any of these projects or have any questions, again, just give me a point. I'll turn it back over to Jacob here.
Yeah, thanks, David. It's fascinating information, the scale of some of those projects. So to me, it's interesting that how we're helping so many people with so kind of few of you guys, but all the statewide team is kind of a tribute to how we filtered all out to the statewide team and local folks to help us get the information we need. And Thanks for helping us get us back on track too. I know we were kind of running over a little bit, but we're pretty close to back on schedule. Does anybody else have any questions for David right off? If not, just email him or whatever. I'll post your presentation on our website. If that's okay, David. I'll put it in our STP site. Next speaker is Mr. Chris Lambert. Let me read his bio quick. He's going to go over some data systems. Chris Lambert has over 23 years experience with the KYTC. He's currently serving as a systems consultant for the Division of Maintenance. Over the last 7 years, Chris has worked on the implementation and improvement of a real-time big data system. The system currently processes 36 million records of data per day and supports various use cases throughout the cabinet, including traveler information system, Go Kentucky, Go KY, automated crash detection, snow and ice decision support, etc. So with that being said, Chris Lambert, thanks for being with us today. I can see your screen good. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Good, good.
I see you've got some big data in your background picture.
I do, and I'm actually here in the office, so I kind of look like a silhouette, but I apologize. I got a face for radio anyway. I should probably just turn this off. You and me both. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about our big data system. We've been working on this now for, I guess, 7 years, but and this started as a snow and ice project, snow and ice decision support. But so some of the data that we collect everything from speed data. We collect crowdsourcing data from Waze, iCones data. iCones are the smart cones that we put out on work zones and monitor work zones specifically. We pull in data from social media like Twitter, Kentucky Messenet stations, etc. So I won't sit and read the rest of the list to you, but here's all the stuff that we collect. We pull this data in at minimum every 2 minutes. So if it's refreshed more often, like AVL, for example, automatic vehicle location information off our snowplows, that's updated every 10 seconds. So we pull data from 14 different trucks every 10 seconds. We process that data against our linear referencing system, and that helps with our decision support for snow and ice. And then the rest of the data we generally pull every 2 minutes and process that. We really see ourselves as part of this, the monitor and assess system part of this life cycle. And the way we process data with polygons, lines, and points, we do all this in real time. So depending on the scenario or the data source, for example, National Weather Service polygons or forecast polygons, those would get snapped to the half-mile segment of roadway every 2 minutes. So we get, we've got 60 different fields of information that we process for just roadway weather. So anyway, we've kind of positioned our system to do monitoring and assessing of the roadway. Linear referencing, here's some of the fields that we add so that everything is nice and uniform. You can, when you're performing a SQL query on any of our data, you can use district, county, route, begin mile point, any mile point. You can grab any of our 16 different data feeds that we aggregate and process, and then match those up per minute. So you can do joins and things based on 2 minute increments and mile points. The way we accomplished that, we just migrated to Google Cloud. This happened right around mid-October in preparation for the snow and ice season. It's kind of a last-minute effort. Again, 26 to 36 million records per day, depending on which way the wind blows and how many trucks are active and that kind of thing. We do keep 1 year of hot storage and Elasticsearch for dashboarding, and I'll show some of that. And we've got about 50 Google functions that power this thing. So if you're interested in Google Cloud, or if you're an agency that uses this outside of KYTC, you may be interested to understand some of the more specific details of how we process that data, and we can share that with you. And some of the analysis we've done, just really short-term stuff, like the work from home. You know, when Governor Beshear announced a kind of lockdown or the work from home efforts, this is what happened with our non-recurring congestion, and these records come in from Waze, and that's what happened on interstates, US routes, KY. So we've done a lot of this kind of one-time analysis. Air quality, I did this analysis just literally for a presentation that I gave where we broke seasonal trends in air quality, and you see the Waze congestion That's the blue line that starts in the upper left-hand corner. So our congestion has really dropped off, especially there in April and May. And you can see how that affected our air quality there, and then highlighted area in the middle. And then just, work zones and crashes. This is, again, just a simple SQL join between our active work zones and our mile points, and then taking the crashes that fell within those constraints, and then kind of making this comparison. So this is just from our traffic management center, comparing their work zone reports against their crash reports. And so anyway, that's just something somebody said, hey, how many crashes do we have in each work zone? This is something that we could quickly deploy. And then, I was asked about the Brent Spence Bridge when we had the fire on the bridge. I was immediately asked, what's the impact to the region? We put together this dashboard, the squares there in the upper left-hand graph. Those are historic speed data compared to current average speeds. So when you have a mismatch in color, you can see that there's a difference between your historic data and your current data. And then the stuff at the bottom is just congestion on interstates, KY, and US routes, and then some other graphs. And these are all interactive if you were working with those. I'm just using PowerPoint to keep myself on track. Work zone monitoring, or just any corridor monitoring, we can do that. We've got a dashboard, a live dashboard, a public dashboard set up to do this, where you can zoom into any of our work zones, and you can click on a more info button, and that more info button brings up a performance dashboard of that work zone. So you get the average, this is the last 30 days. And I'm looking at I-75 in Boone County, and I'm looking at those average speeds. That's per hour per day in the large graph in the middle, the heat map. And then over on the right, we've got crash detections at each mile point so that I know where my problems are. And then we also have most congested locations over the last 30 days in that bottom right-hand graph there as well. So I understand that mile point is, or those mile points, and I'm having problems seeing my own work right now because I'm looking at the 175, mile marker 175 is the most problematic or the most congested. And then we do incident detection. So we take our HERE data, which is based on GPS averaging from cell phone users across the state. We do licenses data, and it's statewide. And then we compare that with crowdsourcing data from Waze. And when there's a match, when we have a report of a crash in Waze, and then we also have a decline in speeds at the exact same location, we kind of flag that as a detected incident. And then this is kind of how that looks, where I've got, let's see, it looks like my, maybe my non-cardinal speeds have dropped off significantly. And then I've got reports of congestion, I've got reports of crashes. And so over on the left two graphs are based on time, and then the right two graphs are actually based on speed. So I can perform queue monitoring using this. So I actually know to the 10th of a mile, or maybe I've got these set up. Yeah, I've got these graphs specifically set up for half mile. So that's miles per hour per half mile. And that gives me the historic data against my average and then my minimum. So I know that the minimum speed at mile point 187.5 was approximately somewhere between 10 and 20 miles per hour within whatever time range it was that I'm looking at. And then here's how some of that works. Your speed data here starts to decline. People start to report things. Those are the dots at the bottom. So in this circle, I've got up to 20 reports of crashes, for example, and my speeds already declined. So I've marked this. So I started detecting this incident about 16:30. And then our traffic management center picked this up and reported this around 18:10. So it's a little while later before they actually get a phone call confirming that the report is there. So this is a significant improvement to our operations than what our legacy workflow allowed for. And then if I wanted to do incident review, same work zone dashboard. We also stack crash reports on top of that in the same dashboards, where you can pull that up and you say, oh, well, what about this incident? When did this happen? And what did that look like? Again, we're kind of bringing you back to the same dashboard. And this is what that looks like per day. So you can see where speeds have really declined there in one direction. And then you can zoom in on that one area. And then that kind of expands that data, and you can kind of go into a deeper dive on what happened and when and where these things occurred. Again, we're just kind of reusing the same type of dashboard, different use case. And then we also look at, what's the impact to that one crash, or was there an impact in the region for that one crash, or how bad was that? And we can kind of do that using this type of dashboard where we perform these grid aggregations and then these overall graphs about the performance of that area. Decision support, real-time decision support. We do populate GoKY, or our traffic information system. That's our OD 511 system with this data. We populate that. One great example is Kentucky Emergency Management. One time they wanted to understand, we were working with them. I was stationed over there during a flooding event. And so I was able to map out all the incidents of flooding and high water over the roadway where roads were closed. And we just put out a post on Facebook and asked people to report road closures and flooding, and they obliged. And so this is a map of that data as it came in. Snow and ice decision support. We do a lot around here, around this one use case. We really kind of throw everything at snow and ice these days. So on any half-mile segment of roadway, again, we've got about 60 fields of data. We've got air temperature, pavement temperature, dew points, wind speeds. We also interpret radar value, and I'll get to that in a second. Randy Feltner has developed a severity index. We've got elevations, we've got slopes, we've got all kinds of information on each and every half-mile segment of roadway across the state. And then we bring all this together in a dashboard. We bring all of our data, whether it's speed data, crowdsourcing, Messinet stations, we've got CocoRaws, weather reports. We'll try to bring all that into one place and allow people to use all that data, again, for decision support. This has been useful in the past when different agencies have wanted to close down the roadway because they thought it was dangerous, and we were able to keep those roadways open because we were actually, we had data that showed that traffic was still moving. And we didn't want to, you don't want to close a roadway if traffic is actually moving and moving safely without crashes. So part of our Doppler radar, any of you that are interested in environmental conditions, we've got a lot of this data. We do interpret Doppler radar based on color. So, and this is real time, this is every 2 minutes. And then this is just kind of having some fun with our symbology. We take those radar values, we impose those to each half-mile segment of roadway, and then we can symbolize based on that. So we actually know how severe it is. And this is actually Doppler radar passing over our roadways and those roadway segments being symbolized based on those values. And this is what that looks like statewide. This is typically my background. This, I told my GIS guys, this is work of art. This isn't just data. And then how do we use all that? And this is a great example where we were able to use this data to understand our operations and our performance. So here in the lightly colored squares in the left, that's where the severity index is not very severe. This is our total severity index. And then on the western part of the state where you see the really dark squares, this is where this is total severity, right? So darker squares should be the more severe areas and lighter squares are not. And then what we do is we outline that square with our AVL, response. And so when we have a mismatch in colors, what you should see is a dark square with a dark outline. What you should not see is a light colored square with a dark outline. That's a disproportionate response to the event. And then we do some tracking on that with our severity with interstates, parkways, US routes, et cetera. And this is kind of how that looks. This is the red shaded areas, our AVL activity, and then the bar graphs in the back are crowdsourcing reports from Waze concerning, ice on the road and accidents, minor accident, major accidents. Again, that's their terminology. Sorry, it's crash. And then these are some of the things we put in place for this year. These type of dashboards are for our executive leadership starting this year. The bar graphs at the top show the active trucks, the amount of salt distributed, and it also shows the red dots there are actually the number of crashes on that we've detected on the roadway at each hour, and then the blue dots are actually the number of people on Twitter that are talking about weather. So this is grabbing unique values of people that have tweeted with the hashtag KYWX. And so this gives us the ability to kind of understand what's happening at the executive level. And then of course there's a map, we like to map everything of our AVL activity across the state. And then this is just another dashboard, kind of an all-in-one dashboard if you want to start comparing district to district. And then this is a more specific, a district view. This is going to be used by our, maybe your chief district engineer or your maintenance engineer in each district this year. And then this one, I love this one. This is my corridor view. This, I used to call this the Chris view. This is great because you can pull up like I-75, and this is real data from last February. Pulled up I-75 here, and this shows us the average mile per hour and the free flow, and this gives us some of the stuff in the middle there is like our severity index compared with speed data, and you can see where the severity index spikes up, our mobility or our speed data declines. And then we've got AVL activity there in the bar graphs. Now, the bottom bar graphs, though, are actually showing the amount of salt and the amount of machine hours used from each district. So we can see that it looks like District 8 is extremely active in this area. And again, these are just trucks that are equipped with AVL units, and we hope to complete that rollout in the next couple of years. The majority of our fleet does have, about 80 to 90% of our fleet does have AVL units installed, but including contractors. So we're able to see this information. So, and again, I want to make this point too before I jump off here is that, I get really excited. I kind of geek out about data, but it's a lot more than data. And a couple of years ago, I kind of understood this when I was kind of getting really excited about some graphing and things that I was doing. And somebody mentioned to me that somebody died in the queue. And I was so excited about my data that I didn't really think about it. I said, oh, great. I said, that's great. And before I realized what I was saying, I spun around to work on my graph a little bit more. And I suddenly realized what I said. And it kind of hit me. And then I started realizing that all this data that I've been looking at, these are people's lives being turned upside down on our roadway. And we've just got to do better. And we can't be losing 700 people every year on our roadway. That's not an acceptable number. And it really kind of had a pretty drastic effect on me and the way I view this data now. So it's kind of eye-opening. But anyway, we do catalog all this data. If you've got questions about the data, please let me know. And we hope to make this data available to a wider audience. We've been doing this now for quite some time, again, 6-7 years, mainly around snow and ice and very specific use cases. But now that we moved to Google Cloud, we're starting to get more people involved. Planning, I think I know of at least 2 users in here. And then we tried to open this up to about 3 or 4 more last week. If those got approved, I'm not sure if they finally got approved or not. And then we're also trying to make a way for consultants to actually to also participate. And if you have a Google ID, we can give that Google ID permissions on our platform, and you can perform queries and export data, etc. And we will absorb the cost of that. We currently have an unlimited plan with Google where we pay like $10,000 or $12,000 per month. And that covers everything, including our compute costs, that's our storage costs, etc. And we've got probably about 30 or 40 terabytes of data sitting there. Roadway weather alone, just this last year, was 4 terabytes of data. And that was a subset, that was a derivative of all of our other data sets put together, kind of combined and thrown into roadway weather. Again, like I was talking about with those air temperature, pavement temperatures, et cetera, because we're generating about 125,000 records every 2 minutes for snow and ice, and we do that around the clock. So anyway, that's it with my presentation. Be happy to hear from you. Let me know if you need the data or need access to it, and we'll try to get that worked out for you. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Chris.
Yeah.
I had one question in the chat box from Bernadette. She said she got a phone call or something, but she was wondering where you got your flood information from, and if you're aware of Raven 911 program and OKI.
The flood data comes from well, a lot of different sources. Our traffic management center produces high water flood reports. And then we also have data from Waze as well, where we're performing like a word search of the word flood on both the description and the data type itself, because there is a flood report in Waze. So we do both of those. And then,
Yeah, it's a cool presentation. I know we're in good hands down there with you guys. Did you guys build all that stuff? Steve up here said you got that. Maybe you built those some of those programs.
I've got, well, it's me and a couple other guys. Started this Jeremy Gould in OIT. He's been with me since 2014. He and I have been working on this, and then we've always had like another developer that's worked with us on this. So there's always a team of 3 of us that have been working on this. And you know, I like to kind of brag on the group a little bit, because other states like Colorado have got 8 to 12 people assigned to the same task, and we're doing it with 3. So it's kind of cool. But yeah.
And Chris came up and talked to me a little bit yesterday, getting a feel for how the presentations go. And you said something about, I was impressed by I guess kind of the scale again, the costs and things that are involved. And I think you said it was millions of dollars a day or something for something. I can't remember what you were talking. Can't remember what you said.
The number of records. Yeah, the number of records where it's up to about 36 million, depending on snow and ice and things. It's about 36 million records per day that we're producing. But and the cost, we've actually reduced our cost quite a bit by going to Google Cloud, making that available. So, but yeah, it was the number of records we were talking about.
And it costs us, it costs much money. I guess from these statewide partners, if they're looking at storing some of this data, I have no clue how much that stuff costs to store it. I know it costs money for professionals.
It's not that much on the cloud. It's not that much. We actually have a contract with Google to allow unlimited usage of their cloud for I think it's either $10,000 or $12,000 per year, and it works kind of like a utility bill. We renegotiate that every 2 years, but right now we're nowhere near that. The storage of the data is extremely cheap compared to what our centralized IT department was COT. What they were charging us, it's a fraction of that cost. So the data storage itself is extremely cheap, and the compute is actually really cheap also. So yeah, I would encourage anybody that can, just please let me know, and we're going to try to start rolling out access to this data to more and more people. We got to get more people involved in there. This is really important stuff, really good stuff.
Okay, and then see, the last question was, I don't know if you sent me this presentation or not. Can I put that on the STP website, or is that
I'll get it to you.
Confidential?
Yeah. Sure. No, I'll get it to you. It's fine.
Okay, I appreciate it, Chris.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for anybody else have any questions for Chris? I think that's all. It's about break time for us. So if I don't see any other questions, I don't see anything right off. But it's 10:30 right now. Awesome. You got us back on schedule, Mr. Lambert. I appreciate that. Thank you, speakers. There's a lot of information today, this morning already. And when we come back for break, we'll just take 10 minutes, I guess, go walk around and stuff. But we'll come back at 10:40 with Nate Heisler, Darren Riverad. So thanks, guys. I'll share I'll share a screen here or something in the meantime. Starting to get close. 10:39. Nate, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'll read your intro here and then we'll get started. It's almost 10:40. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody that is not still on break. We'll go ahead and get started so we can listen to these presentations, and then you'll leave a few minutes early, maybe for lunch or something if we get done early. But to stay on schedule, our next speaker is Nate Heisler, and he is from he's working with the Barren River Ad as a transportation planner. And this there's some GIS technology that's starting to become a little more popular around the state. I can tell several of the planners are trying to either there's somebody at the ad that can use this GIS stuff, or some of the planners are learning how to use it. And Nate is he's a Western Kentucky grad, managed operations for the city of Bowling Green's transit system. And he's responsible for introducing Google Transit to Bowling Green, allowing residents to plan trips from their phones on the Google Maps app. And like I said, I know it's starting to become a little more popular, and it's nice to hear from guys that are using it, in the field. So Nate, go ahead.
All right, I appreciate it, Jacob. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Jacob, can you see that all right?
Yeah, I can see it, and I can hear you good.
Okay, so this is our Barren River Regional Transportation Dashboard. And I guess the idea around it was to develop an easy to use interactive digital platform for some of our transportation data. So this is the main page here. It's kind of divvied up into, we have 4 main tabs on the bottom, and then a couple of extra features on the side. So on the main page here, you'll notice the triangles. This is our regional crash map. And the triangles represent fatal crashes in our area over the last 4 years, from 2018 to 2021. You can also toggle on other conditions. We have dry road conditions, which are represented by the orange tab here. We have wet road conditions with the blue tab, dark crashes with no lighting on the road, with the dark tab here, ice and flooding conditions, and pedestrian collisions. So when we click on a triangle here, it gives us a variety of information. I'm going to give you an example here. So when I click on it, it actually gives the police report for the crash that happened that day. It gives us a street view for the location of the crash, where we can click on it, and it takes us to the location. We can actually look around the area. We got county, we got roadway number, street, latitude and longitude, collision date, collision time, number of units involved, motor vehicles involved, number of people that were actually killed in the accident, number injured, the weather that day, and just a variety of things, lighting condition, whether it was daytime or nighttime. So I'm going to kind of give you an example of how this tool can be used. And I'm going to be zooming in to a crash that is north of Glasgow in Barren County. And it's on Happy Valley Road. It's Highway 90. So when we click on it, it gives us all of the information that we saw on the last coordinate. But to kind of keep in mind, this is a rear end collision. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to toggle on other crashes that happened around in this area. So I'm going to go to Barren County, and I can click on a dry road condition accident and wet road condition accidents. And I'm also going to do it for 2018 and 2019. It's kind of split up into different years under the county. What we notice is that we start getting a cluster of crashes in this particular area. And we know that the fatality was a rear end collision. So what we can do is we can kind of analyze the other crashes around that fatality. And we start to notice a trend. Rear end collision, rear end collision, another rear end, and the list kind of goes on. So probably we can kind of come to the conclusion of what's happening here in this particular spot on Highway 90 is that probably what's happening is somebody stopping here for oncoming traffic to turn into Harry King Road right here, and they're getting rear-ended. Now, with this information, I believe it's pretty powerful because we can base road selection, road project selection decisions based off of this information with county officials. And what I think would really be cool is that if we were to select a project based on this information, if we came back in a couple of years and construction has been completed, and what happens if all of the accidents go away. So I think that that would be a pretty cool thing. So that's kind of how the crash map works. I'm going to zoom out here. And if anybody has any questions about it, you can always give me a call or throw me an email later on. We have crash data by age. Age on the bottom from youngest to oldest, and the number of incidents in our region on the left-hand side. And it looks like the ages of 18 through 21 take the cake when it comes to crash data in our area. With the highest being the age of 19 with 274 incidents already this year. We also have our shift map. And this is all of our projects that we selected back in January. And what's cool about this is that if a county official, let's say Judge Executive Cannon wants to know his top project in Edmonson County, he can come up here and he can click on it and it'll give him all of the information that needs to know about the project that him and his other officials selected back in January. It's got the county name, it's got the project ID from CHAF. It's got the ranking, the route, beginning and ending mile point, type of work, and estimated cost, and a short description on the bottom. And all of this was pulled from CHAF. And we can also click on the location picture and we can check it out in great detail. The intersection that was picked as their top project in Edmonson County. This is also great for checking out bridge projects. So over in Monroe County, their top project was a bridge project in Tompkinsville. So we can click on that and it gives us all of the information that we need to know about that bridge. And we can also go there and check out the bridge in pretty good detail. Moving on to our state traffic count map. There's two ways that you can use this. It's got a search bar at the top and you can type in a specific address, or you can just kind of zoom in, which is normally what I do. And it's good for, let's say for example, one of our mayors, Mayor Stratton in Russellville, if he wants to know volume on his roads, traffic volume, we can zoom in and let's say he wants to check out East 9th Street. He can click on that street and it'll give him daily averages. It's an AADT count for that specific road, which is looking like East 9th Street daily average is right at 8,000 units. And I've also got a link below here for anybody that's interested in finding out how AADT is calculated. On the right-hand side with the legend, we have traffic cameras around our region. And these were pulled from KYTC. And I believe that these are updated every 30 seconds to a minute or so. This is I-65. I-65 with Hart County. And the list kind of goes on. We got Cumberland Parkway in Barron County. Goes to the state line, Tennessee state line with Simpson County. Below our traffic cameras, we have a link to the current KYTC road construction map. And I was just checking this one out the other day, and this one's updated very frequently. I believe it's daily. And it's good for finding road construction. On the left-hand side, we have a sidebar here with a little arrow. And it's updated frequently with our district's traffic impact report. As you can see, this one's from July 16th through July 23rd. So that's kind of our dashboard in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions, like I said before, feel free to give me a call. My contact information is in the dashboard below the legend. And we used ArcGIS Pro for this, along with ArcGIS Dashboard. And I believe that it's based, cost-wise, it's based off of how many subscriptions you want and how many active users you want to have using the software.
Yeah,
so
cool,
I'll pass it back to Jacob.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. How much of that, like, we're pretty much pulling information from existing data sources, right? This is the dashboard software, I guess, is a way, you're just summarizing it mainly, but you can put your own spin on like where the different windows are and which windows you want. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's totally customizable.
Yeah, it's interesting. And this is several of the ads I know were kind of they were kind of giving Nate some praise, you know, for putting this out there. And then Jocelyn Gross from the Gateway ad is also using this. I think she used it for the shift process. But Jocelyn, let me intro you. Thanks again, Nate, for sharing that. And the website and stuff. I'll put this. I'll maybe put a link or something on the STP webpage of how to get to your dashboard or something like that, and your contact info.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat too, Jacob.
Okay, yeah, good idea. Okay, Jocelyn Gross is the next speaker. She's the Gateway Ad Planning Director. Jocelyn came back to Gateway Ad 3 years ago after working at the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority for 3 years as a WRS resource analyst. And she first started at Gateway in 2011 after graduating from Morehead State University with a degree in geography and regional analysis public policy. So, Jocelyn, are you on here? I think you were traveling this morning, but I think you're.
Hey, Jacob, I'm stopped in Salyersville right now. So, yeah, I've got a few slides. I can share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you know if I can see it. So, what are you on your phone? Are you on an iPad or what?
I'm on a I'm on my laptop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. You're in presenter mode. Yeah, there you go.
All right. So we created a dashboard for the shift process this year. So we created the Gateway Shift 2022 dashboard. And basically what we did with it is we put all of our projects into this dashboard so we could review them with our local officials and with our highway districts when we were doing our county meetings. And so it was really helpful in doing that. We were able to zoom around on the map. We're in the eastern part of the state, so we have the really good 6-inch imagery that we uploaded to the dashboard as well. And so that made it really great when we were trying to look at areas in the roads. And we also we were able to select the projects in each county that were priorities, and we were able to edit the information on the dashboard as we were having our meetings, especially since we were having virtual meetings. This dashboard was really helpful in discussing projects and looking at where projects are located. and even adding new projects. We could add new projects on the fly whenever we were reviewing them with the counties and with the district offices. And that's kind of how we've used it so far. We've got additional fields in our data where we're gonna also use this when we boost our projects. So, and this is live, so the county officials can look at it at any time. They can go online and look and see what projects ranked as priority for at a local level, and then which projects were sponsored by the districts. And there's all the information regarding the project, where it's located, the link, the estimated budgets, and the descriptions are included in there. And then what we've also done since the sponsorship is we've added our socioeconomic maps on there, so they can see where their sponsored projects are located in respect to the areas that have more vulnerable populations. And you can actually click on the different census block groups on our socioeconomic profiles and compare the different types of vulnerable populations in that area. So ours is pretty simple and straightforward. We're using it to kind of review information as we're going through the shift process and having that available on a virtual platform for our local elected officials.
Yeah, thanks, Jocelyn. Let's see, do you guys summarize like the crash data and stuff like Nate does, or did you mainly use it just for shift?
No, we've just used it for shift. That's something we're, Barren River has really led us on that. So like that's something we're looking at doing as well, maybe in a separate dashboard for some planning, but this is mostly just focused on project identification and where our projects are going to be located.
Yeah, okay, and you guys probably, I know the NPOs probably do too, but I know the ads kind of have like a GIS person online that kind of understands the language a little bit. But does the I guess the software support guys, you probably have an existing license. Do they do most of this stuff behind the scenes, or do you guys have to do a lot of GIS in-house?
We do all of our GIS in-house. So we've got a GIS staff person who helps us with the dashboards, and I worked a lot on this one and kind of developing the workflows for sponsoring projects and creating new projects. But we do it all on ArcPro and ArcGIS Online.
Yes, fascinating. I'm sure there's several different companies that do that stuff, but it's neat. It's neat to see how you guys are using online tools and things, especially during that COVID deal. So I bet it was a big help. Let's see. Thanks, Jocelyn. I guess get back on the road now.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for taking a few minutes, stopping and sharing that with us. Does anybody have any questions for Jocelyn? Does anybody have any questions for Jocelyn before she steps on the gas? Great, Nate. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat box. I'll probably post a link or something, Jocelyn, kind of like Nate did, with your contact info. Maybe if somebody has a question about how to do that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see the next speaker up. For today, we've kind of gone over several data things. We went over some federal stuff early on, and we're kind of getting into an NPO area now with OKI. A lady named Margaret Menzner is an OKI Senior Environmental Planner for OKI. And she is responsible for managing the Green Space program. So we'll shift gears a little bit here and listen to Margaret. The Green Space program includes coordinating the consultation process and implementing OKI strategic regional policy plan, recommendations for conserving natural systems and integrating green space into the development process. Margaret holds a doctorate in education leadership from Northern Kentucky University, a master's degree in integrative studies from the Northern Kentucky University, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in biology from Skidmore College. So that's an impressive resume, and I appreciate you being willing to share with us today, Ms. Menzner. And the floor is yours. I can see your presentation loading up there.
Okay, great. let's see, we'll start from the beginning. First of all, I want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I hope, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good, awesome. So I want to first start off, I'm in Raleigh right now. I'm getting ready to present in a couple hours at the National Mitigation and Ecological Banking Conference. So I'm sitting in my hotel room here with not the best internet connection, but it seems to be relatively cooperative. So fingers crossed. And so I just want to thank you all for having me. Thank you, Jacob, for that introduction. Just to give you an overview of what where we're coming from with this, and since you're all in transportation, you all are have some background in this, but for Safety Loose Section 6001, it requires that MPOs include a discussion of potential environmental mitigation activities and areas to carry out those activities in the long range plan. It also requires that environmental mitigation discussion be developed with the consultations with federal, state, tribal, wildlife, land management, and regulatory agencies. But this is not prescriptive. Rather, it kind of just gives us some leeway of how we want to develop it. Now, OKI has really tried to go above and beyond in what we're doing. And we were early adopters of the ecological program from Federal Highway. And from that, we developed an environmental resources viewer a few years ago. And that helped to show where there might be red flag summary areas of concern to anybody using the system and communities trying to look at where their what might be involved with their potential projects for advanced mitigation. So in continuation of this consultation work, we wanted to expand the environmental resources viewer so that communities could weight different GIS layers and determine where their priorities are and have a map, give out an output, a result of what is most important based on what they've prioritized. Let's see. So one of the things that came out of our consultations recently, we just updated our long range transportation plan, the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and that was just last year. And through the environmental consultations, we identified that we needed to do something to support mitigation in the region. As you can see, the OKI 8-county region is shown here with all the corresponding service mitigation service areas. Now, when an environmental impact happens in a region, the mitigation for that impact has to occur within the service area. So what our board at OKI was interested in is how can we support mitigation efforts to be focused in the OKI 8-county region. So through this, we looked at, I spent pretty much a solid year consulting with agencies, numerous agencies. I worked through the in lieu fee programs for all 3 states and included consultation with Army Corps, Nature Conservancy in Ohio, Northern Kentucky University and their in lieu fee program, as well as Kentucky Fish and Wildlife and the in lieu fee programs they're working with, Indiana Department of Natural Resources. I also worked with the local partners in the region, such as Cardinal Land Conservancy. I worked with Building Industry Association of Northern Kentucky, Boone County Soil and Water Conservation District, Sanitation District, SD1, as well as our Sustainability Alliance for Cincinnati. I also worked with Ohio EPA, IDEM, and ODOT. And I wanted to mention also that I worked a lot with the Northern Kentucky Stream Restoration Advisory Committee, and they were critical in helping me get started in this process. And they were a tremendous help. So after about a year of talking to people, I figured out what needed to go into our model. And these are all the layers that we came up with. And as you can see, there's so much in there. And our model is somewhat unique because there's so many layers. We had to do a lot to make it work with this many layers in a model. So we included information on parcels with a half-mile stream, natural heritage data, parks and protected areas, forested areas, steep slope, and mitigation projects. And the mitigation projects were what we have available using Ribbits and any of the state and state layers that we were able to get. So it is a work in progress, but it's still better than not having any idea of where there are other existing mitigation projects. We use state layers from all 3 states on conservation opportunity areas. That's derived from the state wildlife management plans, state conserved areas, as well as significant streams. From USDA and NRCS, we grabbed the prime farmland and hydric soils, and then we grabbed a number of layers from the EPA, US EPA's EJ screen, as well as other federal layers, including wetlands, NWI, FEMA flood layer, US EPA impaired streams, and then we grabbed a number of layers from the Nature Conservancy resilient land, including climate connectivity, recognized biodiversity, and resiliency. One of the things that was important to us on this was we wanted to make sure that we weren't creating too many layers that couldn't be easily replicated if somebody else was interested in developing this model. So we tried to find layers that would meet our needs, but also be something that could be, you know, that somebody else could find too. And one of the things that we wanted to do in this model is we didn't want to put in the weights for people or be prescriptive in any way. We wanted to create something that could be adapted and that could be used in for multiple uses. So this wasn't just, we wanted it to be predominantly useful for mitigation efforts, but we also wanted it to be useful if people were looking for, looking to address conservation needs or multiple other issues. So what we landed on was the suitability model from GIS, from Esri ArcGIS. And with the suitability model, you are able to weight things according to what's important to you. So to give you a little bit of overview on the suitability model, it uses what we call a weighted raster overlay, which is basically, and this gives you the process of what we did to create this weighted raster overlay and how we made it. Without going too far into the woods on what we did, basically we got all the layers together. We made sure they were all rasterized. We put them into, we made sure that all the pixel sizes and the extents were the same because you have to do this to make this, this model work. What it does is it uses multiple raster layers and combines those layers based on the weights that you provide. And it's the backbone for the suitability model. So once you go through this whole process of preparing the data, and it can be kind of time consuming because you want to make sure that your data, when you're rasterizing your data, you want to make sure that your cell size is big enough that the model runs smoothly, because you don't want a model that just, you know, that blows up on you, but you also want to have a model that is representative of what you're looking at. So if you make your cell size too large and then you rasterize it, a stream may not even look like a stream anymore. So you want to make sure that the cell size is small enough for every single one of those 21 layers, but still big enough to run the model. So once we prepared all of that, we published this on ArcGIS image server in our portal. And to do this, we use the WRO toolbox. And these are all things that you can get in Arc Online. Now, once the backend GIS server magic was done, what we ended up with was a URL that could just easily be plugged in. And this is an example of how easy it was. I mean, you just copy and paste that into the ArcGIS online suitability widget that can be found on the web app builder. And what's amazing about this is that once you plug it in there, now you've created a web app that you can further develop without really having developed, without being a developer. So you don't have to have any coding experience or anything to do this. So once the WRO is created, you just plug it into the widget and you're done, you're good to go. So this illustration kind of shows you how easy the end part was. I mean, basically we spent 90% of the time getting to the point where we had that URL, and then 10% really making the app that could work for us. And so now here we are, and we are at the moment now where we're getting ready to roll out this this model and this app. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick demo that I've actually pre-recorded. And if we have a little bit of time and interest, then I could, you know, I'd be happy to brave going live for you.
It's fine with me.
Okay, great. So this is the model. You know, we have training documents, and then you have the ability to turn on and off layers for visualization. You know, so if you want to see what this model looks like before you know, what that layer looks like before you include it in the model. You can also, this has a layer list that it gives you more details on what each layer has in it. You know, your legend will show up here. You have the ability to add your own data. So you can add, if you have anything on Arc Online already on an account, if you have a URL with a service, you can add GPX data or shapefile data. You also have the ability to print. And this is the model itself. And so for this model, I'm selecting, you know, you just select the layers that you're interested in. So hydric soils and natural heritage data, parcels with greater than a half mile of stream. And I believe in this one I'm using recognized biodiversity. That's from the Nature Conservancy. So I'm going to go ahead and design the model. And in designing the model, I have to make sure that the total equals 100. And so for this purpose, I'm just arbitrarily putting in 25, 25, 25, and 25, but you could put in whatever you wanted. And then the features within the model, I can weight them. So I'm not interested in non-hydric soils, but as it becomes more hydric, I'm more interested. So I'm weighting them accordingly. And then natural heritage data for this model, I'm not as interested in if there isn't natural heritage data, any species in there, but if there's more and if there's greater than 3 or 4 per square mile, I'm definitely interested in it. Parcels with stream, I'm more interested in areas that have a half mile of stream. And for recognized biodiversity, I'm more interested in areas with recognized biodiversity. I want to point out that if this point, we'll run the model real quickly, and you can see I have areas that are highlighted, and it's graded based on, in this situation, it's graded by red being the highest, whereas green is the lowest. And so it gives you some hotspot areas that you can review. So from there, you can change your base map if you wanted to see what's underneath. And I'm going to put in an aerial just so I can see a little better what it looks like. And zoom in and out, and you can change the transparency so you can see it better. And then you also have measurement tools here, and then you also have the ability to export, and there's some charting tools that are very cool that are really useful for this model. I want to point out a couple things when you decide to run the model. If you put a 0 in any of those features, you'll get a donut hole. It'll eliminate it from the model entirely. So I usually put a 1 unless I really want to eliminate it. Like if I was looking for areas for I wanted to exclude areas that were already protected, or I wanted to specifically make sure they aren't in there. The other thing that I would say is I would not recommend putting all 21 layers in the model at one time and trying to run it. I would definitely, pick like your top 6 or 7 at maximum to run the model. So at this point, if anybody has any questions, I could take any questions anyone might have.
Let's see, anything in the chat box? I don't see anything in the chat box yet. Let's see, I was asking Scott Thompson here, he's sitting right behind me, about the cabinet. If we've ever done this kind of modeling at the cabinet, it's kind of cool when you see it overlaid onto like the cityscape and stuff. How long did you say it took you to put this thing together?
To be honest with you, I think probably, I would say I spent most of my time was spent in talking in consultations with people to decide what layers needed to be included, because there are a lot of layers that are in this model, and really trying to find out, people would say, well, I would like this in the model. And then I had to find out, do we have it? Do we have it for all 3 states? And, is a big thing. It's great if there's a layer that's available in Kentucky, but for us, we're tri-state. So we have to make sure that the WRO won't work if you only have a layer for Kentucky and you're trying to, and I'm trying to do it for Indiana and Ohio. So I had to find, do we have something that would work for all 3 states? So that might be a great thing for in Kentucky, is that you would have that model for the entire state without having to really find the analogous layer in a different state.
And then do you upload local information here and there, or do you guys do any of that kind of stuff? Or do you mainly pull it off of a bigger data set?
For me?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, there's several layers that are created in-house, that we have management on. And a lot of these are just state layers that we download, or federal layers that we download. Our intent is probably to download them in preparation for the next round of consultation. So at least every 4 years they'll be uploaded, or we'll upload them into the model. Some of the layers we do create ourselves, but they're not, like our canopy cover isn't something that's changed every month or anything. So, when we get a new canopy cover, we would definitely be updating that at that point in time. The natural heritage data, we update that every 4 years with consultations. And so it would be updated at that point in time. Parcels with stream, that might be a little more dynamic, but I think we might be, because updating would change the model, we may not be updating as frequently. The other local layer, that I have in here, let's see, I'm trying to think. I think that's all we have for the local layers. Green space, we do update our own green space layer. And we update that every year. So that would probably be one of the layers that we would want to make sure that we get updated, as well as the proximity to mitigation projects. It was really hard for me to find existing mitigation projects. And I have a suspicion that once this goes live, I'm going to be learning about all the mitigation projects that are out there that I didn't know of. So I'll probably be updating that in the near future too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about it, I guess, from who are the main users, I guess, or consumers of your information? Have you identified customers? I'm kind of thinking construction, folks could probably look at it when they're pulling permits and things. Have you noticed any other?
Definitely that. Definitely folks that are involved with in lieu fee programs, or in mitigation banks, or potentially those involved with permittee responsible mitigation. This could help them identify starting points based on whatever they're looking for. My understanding is that in lieu fee programs are sometimes looking, they're looking for where could they potentially be you know, where there could potentially be a place to start for interest, and this might give them some possible places. This could also be used for communities if they're developing green space plans, or they're interested in, you know, updating land use plans to try to determine what future land use might look like in areas. This could also be used if you were looking at projects and you want to see what's in the area that might be problematic for your projects. So those are all, you know, some of the potential uses. The nonprofits, some of them could use that. We've already, our local tree planting initiative, Taking Root, has used this particularly with the EJ data to determine areas that are really in need of, you know, that could be in need of tree planting programs. So areas with low canopy cover, but maybe high traffic exposure, or, you know, populations, low income populations. So combining all of that to identify which communities could benefit from tree planting programs.
Yeah, okay. Let's see, I see one question from Bernadette in the chat box. She says she's just curious, what kind of reduction percentage in green space have you noticed when you updated that layer?
Well, this layer hasn't been updated yet, but it's getting ready to be updated. It's on the horizon. Hamilton County is just recently updating their green space layer, and it hasn't been made available. And Boone, Kenton, and Campbell County have last year have flew LiDAR. So that's all on the horizon. And working with the Northern Kentucky Urban Community Forestry Council, I believe that they are in the process of looking at updating their tree canopy layer. So with all of this, we're really going to see it. And I have a suspicion it's going to be dramatic with EAB.
Okay. Bernadette says she saw it as an important NEPA document tool. I'm trying to think, we saw some dashboard presentations earlier. I guess this information, does it cost money, or is it available for download? Like people can download it onto their own dashboards and stuff?
Well, this is a web app. So this is going to be, we're in the process of making it go live in the next couple of days. So you guys got a sneak peek preview like right before it goes live, and it will be on our website and available. And you just go to our maps and apps at oki.org, and it'll be there for anybody to click on and use. And you can, from there, if you want to, you have the ability to export your model if you're logged into ArcGIS Online. So you have to have an ArcGIS Online account. But if you go ahead, like for this model, say I wanted to export it, I can export it and it'll show up in my Arc Online account. And then from there, I can actually download it and bring it into my Arc, either ArcMap or Arc Pro, whichever software I'm using. So I can do that.
And I'm thinking you've downloaded, are they statewide or like a regional wide data sets, or is it mainly for OKI region?
It is for OKI region. So everything in the model had to be clipped to our region. So if it was like, if I had one data set that was the whole state, it would blow everything up. So it had to all be, every layer that was included had to be in the same extent.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing that, Ms. Menzner.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's neat to see you get a doctorate in educational leadership. This is a cool resource to educate some of the statewide planners, and I can tell you've got a good speaking voice and all that for the efforts that you're involved with.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I see this as a, I see a lot of great things that we'll be able to do with this in the future, and and I'm just really happy to share what we've done so far with you. So thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't see any other chat. I don't see any other chat questions. I think I've got your presentation, so I'll put it on the STP website. Is that okay?
Oh, that's fine. And then the demo video that I have on there actually has narration. I just didn't want to have to listen to my own voice while I'm sitting there. So I turn the narration off. So if anybody wants to kind of go back and figure out how it's done, the narration is on there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Let's see. Thanks, guys, for sticking around so long. We've got one more presentation today by Mr. Stephen Sewell from Palmer Engineering. The city of Ashland did a feasibility study where they kind of reduced lanes, the 4 lanes to 2 lanes. So that concept was interesting, and the project got some praise. So I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about this from Mr. Stephen Sewell. I think he's on vacation too, so he's taking a little time out of his vacation schedule to join us today. Stephen Sewell began working for Palmer Engineering in 1998 while attending the University of Kentucky, continued working for Palmer after graduating in 2000. During his 20+ years as a transportation engineer, he's worked on projects involving transportation planning, traffic engineering, and various roadway design projects. Stephen attended UK, graduated in 2000, Bachelor of Science degree of Civil Engineering, registered professional engineer in 7 states, and professional traffic operations engineer. He lives in Lexington with his wife, Samantha, and their 2 children, Ella and Aniston. So Stephen, if you are not on the beach or whatever, you can go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Jacob. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and I can see your presentation. You're in presenter mode.
Okay. That should have it there.
Okay, there you go.
All right. So I guess a little bit of background on this. The downtown Ashland had a vision. I guess it started a couple of years ago about converting their 4 lanes down to 2, so that through Caova, they found some money through Caova and the Transportation Cabinet. They found some funding to do a feasibility study for this, and we were selected to do that as part of one of our statewide contracts. So kind of what I was going to talk about today was real kind of how we went and got to where we are on the project. So some objectives that they had, talk about the existing conditions, and we'll talk about the proposed alternatives, a little bit of the traffic analysis, and then where the project is, where it's headed, hopefully. So the study corridor was a pretty big corridor. You can see all the intersections that we studied along Winchester Avenue and along Greenup Avenue. Winchester Avenue runs right through the heart of downtown. And for those that aren't familiar with Ashland, there's 2 bridges that you see there kind of in the center of the screen that go over into Ohio. They're one-way bridges. On 12th Street comes into Kentucky, and 13th goes over to Ohio. And you can only access those from Winchester Avenue. So Greenup kind of acts as a bypass. It also is 4 or 5 lanes, and Winchester's 4 lanes through the corridor also. So we looked at all the intersections you see there on Winchester and Greenup. But their objective was to reduce Winchester Avenue from 4 lanes to 2, only between 13th and 18th. There's a pretty significant drop off in traffic if you're coming from the west. Once you cross the bridges, everybody seems to cross the bridges, or turn on to the bridges, or come from the bridges. But once you get to the east, it really drops off. So they wanted to reduce that to 2 lanes, provide angled parking instead of parallel parking that they had. And then one of the things that District 9 had asked us to look at in particular, what's the impacts on Greenup Avenue if we do this? So they were looking for traffic calming through the downtown area. They wanted to improve the safety. You'll see in a few minutes with some crash data that there is some safety issues. They really wanted to improve the walkability in the downtown area, which all these would lead to a downtown revitalization plan that they have, and then to increase tourism, to attract people to their downtown area. So from an existing conditions, you can see the roadways here, some pictures on the right. All the roads are 4 lanes or 5, like I mentioned. The shoulder widths are 0, but then they have areas where you have 8 to 12 foot shoulders that are for parking. Mainly there's not wide shoulders through the downtown area. And the speed limit on Winchester is 25 miles an hour, but on Greenup it's 35. And then there are no geometric deficiencies with it being a gridded system, and down on the river, it's all pretty flat. No issues there. Another key part of this is trucks. The segment that we were asked to look at on Winchester from 13th to 18th is not part of the truck network, which was a big concern that I think a lot of people have, was how are trucks going to get through the area, get to the businesses in the area. And with it being a minor arterial and US 23 and 60, Greenup Avenue and 60 being principal arteries, those were designed to carry more of the heavy trucks. So this area, this, I guess, segment could be, you know, there was a potential for some modifications to it. And then you have a lot of local streets around there that connect between Winchester and Greenup and 23 and 60. So there are no bike lanes in this corridor, but there was a plan done that proposed to add these bike lanes to this thing, to the corridor. So that was a big concern, was how we accommodate bicycles and whatever improvements we do to accommodate those. But there were sidewalks, wide sidewalks on both sides of the street in front of the businesses. So the pedestrians were accommodated, but the goal was to accommodate all users with this. One of the challenges we did face is we started this right in the middle of COVID. There was a big concern about doing traffic counts during this study. We did do AM and PM peak hour counts at 17 intersections. We also did some ADT counts that were lined up with the count stations that are out there. And on Winchester, we ended up with about 7,000 ADT. And you can see the growth. The bottom chart there shows that historically, that's about 7,000 ADT also. And then on Greenup Avenue, which is the top chart, we actually counted about 16,000 ADT. And you can see that they were around 13, 14,000 historically in this area. And growth had been pretty flat in the area, in the downtown area too. So we did also verify it with their travel demand model. We looked at what, if we reduced Winchester to 2 lanes, what did that do to Greenup? And with all the capacity that is there with Winchester and Greenup and Central and Carter Avenue, which are 2 other major kind of parallel routes to that, there was very minimal, I guess, traffic that moved over to Greenup. It just, with 7,000 ADT on Winchester Avenue, that was definitely plenty to handle what was there today. So I mentioned crash analysis. Crashes were a big decision-making process and where we went with our alternatives. Over a 5-year span in the corridor, we had 647 crashes. There were 76 injuries. There was 1 fatality that happened in the corridor. There was 8 pedestrian crashes and 1 bicycle. I will say that a lot of those crashes happened to the west of the bridges that I was talking about, where a lot of the traffic is. And there was a HSIP project to improve some of those safety concerns. And you'll notice the segment we're talking about is that first line where you have the critical rate factors of 1.6 and the 1.3. So there is still a statistical crash issue here, but it's not as significant as what was from 13th over to 23 back to the west of the bridges. As we kind of look at each one of these intersections and what capital crashes we were having, one of the common themes you'll see here is a lot of rear ends and a lot of angle collisions, which is what you typically see at signalized intersections. So 14th, you know, it had 22 crashes, 1 injury there. 15th, this is the one that had the actual fatality. It had 25 crashes. It had the 4 injuries, but it also had 1 fatality, which was a pedestrian. And you see a lot of rear ends and angles there also. 16th, you had 13 more crashes, 3 injuries. You added some rear end, or added side swaps to the rear ends and angles. So those were kind of the, at 16th. At 17th, you had 9 crashes, but no injuries, still angles and rear ends. And at 18th, which was the end of the study area, or the area they were looking to change, you had 11. So with that, I guess one of the things that kind of drove what solution we were going to develop here was what was the safety benefit of reducing the lanes, and what we did with the intersection treatments. So another concern was travel time. And I kind of go through all this background because it really drove the decisions that were made. One of the concerns was we have a fire station in the corridor. just outside the corridor that goes through here, police response times to different things. So they wanted to know what impact was that going to have on their response times. So you could, Greenup Avenue was about 2.5 minutes to go through the corridor from beginning to end. And Winchester was about, well, 3.5, we'll call it 3.7 to 4 minutes in round numbers to get through the corridor there. So you can see it's not quite double. And that makes sense because Greenup only has a couple signals along it, whereas Winchester has a signal at every intersection. So you expect your travel time to be a little better on Greenup. A level of service wise, so if you look at 13th and to the west there, you'll notice that you have some poor level services with C's and E's. But in this corridor, everything was an A and a B existing. Even down on Greenup was A's and B's. So from a traffic analysis standpoint, there was plenty of capacity there. One of the other areas that I mentioned that they had wanted to improve was the parking. So we looked at how many spaces were in this area, how many were occupied during a typical weekday. You'll notice the red and orange are were 80%, basically 50% or more were occupied was the orange, and 80% was the red. And you'll see that's kind of concentrated on the area between 15th and 17th, which is where a lot of the restaurants are. They have a plaza there that was developed on 16th where you can have some outdoor dining and things like that. People can sit around tables. So that was definitely an area that was where people wanted to be. So I mentioned our alternative development. We developed 2 alternatives and then made some revision to alternative 2 to get to alternative 3. But alternative 1 was more your traditional, just change it, reduce it down to 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction. We would have the 14-foot driving lanes. You would have your pull-in parking like you see in a lot of downtown areas where you just pull in and then you would back out into traffic. And to accommodate the bike lanes, since there wasn't enough width to put a 5-foot bike lane on each side, we went with the sharrows, let the bicycles share the lane with the traffic. And everybody seemed pretty comfortable with that, with the people that were the experienced bikers that were coming through the area that would be using it, that they would be fine with the sharrows. And we felt that it was safer also. And then this one, as I mentioned, has signalized intersections along the corridor. So this is kind of, I know this is probably hard to see, but you'll notice there's signals at each one of the intersections. You will notice at 16th, the one right in the middle of your screen there's a green area. That's the plaza that was developed. So 16th between Greenup and Winchester is 2-way. But then once you get to crossover going to the south, it turns to 1-way, only going south. But you can only go down, I guess is a good way of describing it there. But this was just kind of having the bulb outs at the intersections. We did add some turn lanes, some pull offs for the theater up at the west end for bus and loading areas, but pretty much your standard, what you would anticipate for just changing it to 2 lanes. Alternative 2 was also, it had 2 lanes in each, 1 lane in each direction. The lane widths did reduce to 11.5 feet with this. And we did have a raised median in the middle. And that raised median was, we labeled it as 6 feet, but it may end up being closer to 4 once you get into the design of it all. But this one has angled back-in parking. And to kind of talk about the angled back-in parking a little bit, some people may have never heard of that. Some people may think it's kind of crazy, but it is proven to be safer. So essentially you do just like like you're going to parallel park, in that you give your turn signal, you pull past the parking spot that you're going to back into, and then you back into that spot. But rather than trying to make sure you don't hit the curb, or that you're too far away from the curb, and then you're pulling up, backing up, pulling up, backing up, you're just backing in. And with most of the new cars having cameras, it makes it even a lot easier. And there's also an advantage of when people go to the stores and they come out, they can just pop their trunk and it's right there at the sidewalk, rather than having to walk out into traffic. So that's one of the safety benefits. We also had, with the bike lanes, we had sharrows, same as the other one. But this one, we looked at the mini roundabout intersections instead of signals. So with the mini roundabouts, they're definitely smaller than the big traditional roundabouts, but they're a little bit different in that a lot of the islands are mountable. The splitter islands are mountable. The center island is mountable. You do still have your 15-foot circulating width, but for trucks that are coming along, they can drive up on the center of that island in order to make their movement, or their trailers can track across that island to go if they're turning left. So for normal situations, everybody follows the lane, and Kentucky has built these. There's a couple in E-Town that are now open. There's also one in District 9 up in, I forget which county it was. In District 9, there's also, it's a bigger mini roundabout, but it's also a mini. I was in Rowan County. So this was kind of a layout. You'll see that we put 4 roundabouts. We do still have the a stop controlled intersection there at 16th, the one in the center. We tried to put a roundabout in there, but with it being one way, there was just no way without causing a lot of damage to the recently constructed plaza area. So that ended up being the preferred alternative. This is kind of a video. Hopefully it shows up. As we start, we come up to 14th here. And then 15th, you see all the back end parking. The median in the middle, we show it as green for grass, but it may end up being like a decorative concrete. This was 16th Avenue there that you can see the median is open in that situation. It would just be a stop if you're coming from 16th. And then 17th and 18th. And we did show kind of a reversible turn lane as you go further east on Winchester Avenue. So I mentioned that this ended up being the preferred with a few minor tweaks. One of the things that they wanted to change from alternative 2 was up at 14th Street. Today, 14th Street's only one way coming from Greenup up to Winchester. We ended up converting that and making it 2-way, and so that cars coming off the bridges could go up and could get access Greenup easier than driving all the way down Winchester. Just provided another route. The other option that was listed was we closed the median at 16th. There was one of the things of the only intersection that had a level service for the roundabouts less than B was this intersection. It was a C, and that was only because of the cars that were wanting to turn left. It's a small volume, so we could leave the median open and just have a stop, but they wanted to, if we're looking at safety, that was go ahead and close it and provide the safer access. And then cars would just make the right. They could go through the roundabout to make the left, kind of an indirect left turn. And that's still going to be discussed as we go into, I guess, preliminary design or final design for these, the plans, because that was a contentious decision there. So as I mentioned, this was the existing levels of service. You see we have A's and B's. When you go to the proposed, the signals, you do have B's, C's. You have a couple in the future that one that falls to level service D just because of the signal timing. But the roundabout on the bottom, everything is an A and a B. Alternative 2 was, except for that 16th, which was a C. So when you change that and close the median, it becomes an A. We also looked at volume to capacity, and you can see the AM, the volumes are a lot less in the AM. That was one thing that we found, but everything, I mean, you got an average of 0.25 there, and the PM is 0.5, roughly a little over 0.5. So plenty of capacity for the corridor. We also developed traffic simulations. I'll give you a kind of a short preview here. It kind of goes through the corridor. These were very helpful to show the local officials and some of the stakeholders of what traffic looked like today. And then they agreed that that's where backups were. And then we were able to show them the proposed solutions and what traffic would look like there. So this is coming up on you got 12th and 13th where I mentioned the bridges. The this project didn't do anything to fix the capacity issues there. They already have 2-lane dual left turn lanes. You get cars that back up through that intersection and actually back up halfway up to where 23 ties in. But as you go into the corridor, you can see that there's some platooning that goes along with it. Some cars are a little more aggressive than others. We did try to be conservative on that, not make everybody just go into the roundabout, just because there's not a lot of roundabouts in the area. So we thought drivers would be more conservative. But overall, there's very little traffic backups. So the magic question is, how much is this going to cost? That's what always drives every project, I think. And alternative one, which was the signals, is about everything: design, right-of-way, utilities. There's not any right-of-way with this. It's about 2.9 million. And if you go to alternative 2 or 3, you're looking at about 3.5 million, just because you're having to rebuild a lot more curbs, a lot more sidewalk is being redone. There's just some extra, the islands in the middle for the roundabouts and for the raised median down the middle. So there's just some more construction items that occur with that. So we have completed the report. The encroachment permit, I think it's going to go through an encroachment permit process with the state. Once that funding is finalized, where the funding is going to come from. I know they're looking at different avenues to fund this, and then go with the plan development and then getting it let to construction. So with that, Jacob, that's
go further with this.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Stephen. Informative presentation from your side. I had the privilege of working with Stephen on some construction projects that they pedestrian bridge. So I know that these guys have got a wealth of experience, not just planning, but design, construction. And thanks for your time today. Let's see, any questions in the chat box? We've got, looks like Keith Loven was asking any bike facilities downtown.
So there's not any bike facilities currently in the downtown area that I'm aware of. There may be some bike lanes outside, but not through the not in this area. There's not. There are some shoulders on on Greenup that probably are used as bike lanes, but they're not actually bike lanes, striped bike lanes.
Okay, and then he asked about back-end parking, but you answered that one. And is the plan available to view online? I think Steve DeWitt, he posted a link. Beth, is that on our website, I guess? Okay, so on the transportation website, there's a link to that study. Jessica Blankenship said it's a lot of great information that can be utilized in small and large communities, looking into bike ped facilities in downtown areas. And I know Jessica's kind of working on some bike ped plan type things. The ads are kind of looking at some of those. Let's see, Stephen, anything else? There's someone that lives in Ashland, Doug Pinkerton. He says he loves that. Sorely needed for a long time. This would be great for downtown revitalization. This will be the first step to great things, and thank you. And Terry Sicking says the plan is also available on Keova website for reference. Bob's asking what the cost of it was. It's probably, what, a couple $100,000?
Yeah. Well, so total cost was for this alternative was about $3.5 million. I will say, I guess we did have discussions with Mike Vaughn and HSIP on potential funding there. I mean, he likes this concept just because I think he called it the trifecta of what they're looking at with road diets, with roundabouts, and back end parking. So he was really excited about it. So
and then the cost of the study was probably what, a couple $100,000. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think it was
statewide
it was less than 250. I know that. So it's probably between 200 and 250.
Okay. It seems like it's kind of a typical cost that I've seen up here. I've only been up here a couple of years, but it's interesting to see how the different studies are funded and how they, how they get prioritized and things. So the shift process, it's been interesting to see how that stuff works too. Let's see, Stephen, does anybody else have any questions for Stephen? Let him go back to swimming and stuff.
Yeah, the family will probably, the kids are probably waiting on me, but yeah, any other questions?
Honking the horn in the van, right, minivan? So. Honking the horn on you, waiting on you, come out the door.
Oh, they already left me. They weren't waiting on me.
You got to catch up. You got to ride a bike out there, maybe.
I've got my bike ready to go.
All right, man. Yeah, appreciate your time. Let's see your presentation. I think you sent that to me. I'll put it up on the STP website. And is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, what I sent you probably doesn't have those videos in it. If you want those, I could be more than happy to send those to you. Just shoot me an email, let me know, and I'll send them to you.
And that traffic simulation thing was, I'm pretty impressed by that thing. How it actually shows the technology these days. You can actually see like the whole city of traffic going on. So I'm not sure how all that works, but it's neat. It's a neat tool.
It is. It's real helpful when you start talking to like when we presented to the council and some of those folks, and I think it helped them a lot.
Okay. All right, man. Thanks. Have a good rest of the day.
All right. I appreciate it.
Stick around and listen to personnel updates if you want to. See you, man.
I think I'll go find the kids.
All right, man. See you.
See you.
All right. Let's see. That's the last presenter for today. We're like 10 minutes early for lunch. How about that? I've got, let's see, the last things on the agenda. Thank you guys, the speakers, all your speakers for your time, efforts, materials, and the audience as well for the questions, for being here, listening to everything. We've got a few personnel updates in the agenda. I attached the agenda to the Outlook invite. So I think everybody's got the agenda, hopefully. And let's see if there's anything. It's got the next couple meetings, October 20th and January 19th. They're the next, it's usually the third Wednesday, of every quarter. And it's got the shift links on the agenda. Personnel updates, Mr. Keith Lovan, he was asking a couple questions already from the bike ped side. He came from LFUCG, and we're excited to have him on board. Mr. Mark Carter is new aviation commissioner. Josh Rogers is the new division of maintenance director. And let's see, for the district offices, David Skeens, D12 utility supervisor. FHWA, there's a new lady, Miss Nora Codd, who's new to federal FHWA planning environment. And systems performance team as a community planner for the Kentucky division now. And then Mr. Eric Rothermel, he accepted a new position in the Virginia office August 1st. So we'll have a little bit of change there eventually. And then the ads MPO side, Mr. Chayton Pendley is the new Green River ad transportation planner. And Mr. Kelly Ward is the new 5Co ad director. Daryl McGaha is retiring August 1st as the Lake Cumberland ad director. Mr. Waylon Wright will be the new Lake Cumberland ad director August 1st. Mr. Craig Morris is retiring after a long time. He was a transportation planner over in the Pennyrile ad. He's retiring August 31st. And Mr. Brandon Montgomery is no longer the Big Sandy ad transportation planner. They're still kind of working toward a new one there. And Mr. Chris Avilia is the new Lexington MPO manager. And then I got a KSP, Kentucky State Police contact, the truck size and weight contacts retiring, Mr. Jed Hudson. So that's a few personnel updates for you guys. There was also, I know early on, time started getting kind of short on some of the federal presentations, but there's a LFU, or it was a, I think it was LFUCG. It was a grant video that had a video of that project in particular. We still got like 5 minutes. I might play that kind of in closing for those of you guys that want to stick around a little bit. But that's all we've got. That's all we've got on the main agenda. Any other questions you guys have, put them in the chat box, and I'll try to find that video here in the meantime, Bernadette. I'll see if I can play that in closing, kind of as people are leaving, or if they're interested, they can watch. It was on one of the grants. So thanks, guys. Have you a good rest of the day. And I'll be on here probably another 10, 15 minutes or so. If you guys have questions for me, feel free to reach out. Let me share my screen here quick for my contact info, and then I'll look for that video. If I can figure that out again. And there's my contact info for you guys if you have questions for me or how to like see the STP website when we post these things. And I'll look around for this video to play for those that want to stick around. It's only like 5 minutes long, so I'll try to find that here and play it. So I think it was a web link. All right, see you guys. Yeah. Thank you, Jacob. Okay, I think I found it here. Let's see if I got sound.
Town branch comments, yeah.
So you probably can't hear that, can you, Bernadette?
Yep.
Well, I have to put it. I guess I'll put it on the website. But here's the link. I'll have to. I don't think I have the speakers hooked up quite right to my laptop here.
Yeah, I can't. Thank you.
Do you want to try to share that, Bernadette? You might have it handy there. I just don't have my speakers hooked up quite right. Or should I just put it on the?
No, just put it on the web thing because I think everybody wants to go to lunch, and the fact that I don't have it right at my fingertips.
Okay. But it's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool presentation. And like Bernadette said, everybody go enjoy your lunch. Thanks for sticking around to the presentation, and I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully it'll be in person. We'll see how it goes.
Great job today, Jacob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bernadette. Bernadette's been very helpful in some of these meetings that we have, several suggestions and ideas. So it's cool to have that partnership with the feds and the state and the local guys. So these meetings are great ways to bring everybody together. I'll stop recording.